Hi everybody, it's Chef Anne Apra welcoming you back to the kitchen. A little earlier this year, I traveled to Italy and we went into Florence and went to the Cinque Terre up in the northern region of Tuscany. And I was very flattered to guest teach a gnocchi making class. And guess what we're gonna make today? We're gonna make some gnocchi. So I'm going to use some of the tips and tricks that my nonno taught me, and I'm going to teach you. The choice of potato is very important. We like to use a russet because they're very starchy, so I recommend using a russet. We also have an egg. I always like organic. We'll need some all-purpose flour, a little bit of sea salt. On the finer side, I scrubbed my potatoes. I put them in cold water in a pot, and I let them come to a full boil until they were fork tender. Here's a really fun tip on how to handle a hot potato. Use a fork, and you can use a paring knife to get rid of the skins, and you can just rotate it, and the fork helps keep your hand from getting burned. If you find that your potato has little dark edges like that, you definitely want to pare those out because we want our gnocchi, our pillows, to be bright and the same color without the dark spots. One of the reasons why we boil with the skins on is because we do not want them to oxidize. Oxidization is when it turns that icky gray color. We don't want that. You want to boil your potatoes with the skin on, is that controls the content of moisture that goes into the potatoes because you want a pillowy texture. You don't want them to be waterlogged and heavy. In addition, you want to very carefully add your flour. You don't want them to be heavy. More flour equals more dense and more heavy. And we want our pillows to be light and fluffy. Now that some of these potatoes have become a little cooler, that's the perfect time to start your ricing or your mashing, depending on how you choose to go to the next step. When your potatoes are too hot, not only are they hard to handle, but also it can cook the egg that we're going to add to it. We don't want to scramble our eggs into our hot potatoes. We're going to very lightly flour a workspace. Cutting the potatoes in half not only helps you handle them better, but it also can control how you can use this potato masher. This helps keep your potatoes nice and fluffy. Okay, so we have our potatoes riced, and we're going to just make a little well in the center. We're going to add a little egg. Satisfying, isn't it? Remember that little fork we had earlier? We're going to use it again, just a little bit of a mash, just to smear it up. And to that, I'm going to add just a pinch of salt. I'm using fine kosher salt. We want everything light and fluffy. To that, I'm going to add a small portion of flour, and I'm going to start working my dough. And it's really important to get flour on your hands too. And we're just going to start gently forming and manipulating egg into the potato. This is why we don't want the potato too hot, because then it turns into scrambled eggs. Now remember, you use a little flour at a time, equaling probably about a cup. And you want to be gentle. You don't want to overmix. And I love using the kitchen bench scraper here. This just kind of helps collect bits and pieces as we start to work our dough. And again, a little goes a long way, and you're just going to work it like a dough. Oh yeah, so you can see you want it a little sticky, but not too sticky. I'm just turning it over. All right, I think maybe we're almost there, just a tiny bit more. And we're going to try and get this consistency. It's so light and fluffy, which is exactly what you want. You want the pillows, the gnocchi pillows. That is beautiful. You want your gnocchi to rest maybe 10 minutes or so, which is a great excuse to get the pasta water on for the gnocchi. Now we'll just leave it, cover it lightly, and we'll come back in a few moments. Our dough has been resting for about 20 minutes, and I'm just going to gently re-knead it. Look at that. Beautiful, puffy, light as air. Once you have your dough in the right consistency and it's rested, portion it out in quarters. And I usually set the side. Look at the consistency of this beautiful dough. You can see the air bubbles in there. It's light and fluffy. I'm going to use my towel and I'm going to cover the dough so that everything stays a little bit protected. Take your portion and you're going to begin to make like snakes or cigars with gentle rolling motion back and forth. Once it gets to the thickness of about your thumb or so, take a sharp paring knife and I'm just going to cut about the length of my thumb all the way down. Over here is a baking sheet with a clean tea towel. Dust a little bit of flour on it. You're just gonna lay them out. Pop your thumb in there and you make an indentation. Very traditional gnocchi that people in Rome do. So the sauce will sit in the well. My nonno gave us these wonderful paddles that we used to use as kids. And this is how we would make our gnocchi. Put it on the edge of the paddle and you use your thumb and it rolls right off. And it creates this lovely well on the other side, which also gives you more sauceability. I also was taught by my grandfather to use the edge of a fork, which is kind of fun. Just another option. It's a great way to spend time with your family. That's what we would do every year. We would make gnocchi and we'd always have a beautiful pot of sauce on the stove that filled the house with such great aroma, and we would laugh, and there's usually wine involved. Okay, you've done all the work. You've made these gorgeous gnocchi and you can't eat them all. What do? You freeze them. I take a baking sheet with a little parchment paper. I dust a little bit of flour on it, and I decide the ones that I do not want to eat tonight, that I want to freeze. And you just line them up in a single layer, and you're gonna add a little dusting of some more flour on top. You'll pop it in the freezer overnight or for at least 2 hours, and then you add them to a zipper bag. Add them to a Tupperware, whatever you'd like to store them in. Make sure that you label them and enjoy them before a year. They have a long shelf life in the freezer, but I don't think they're gonna last that long. Make sure you have at least 2 quarts in a big stock pot, and you wanna pop in a lot of salt because you want your water seasoned. I made a wonderful pomodoro crudo, which is a fresh tomato sauce. If you'd like to learn how to do that, check out the description box below. We're going to put the crudo on top of the gnocchi. Let's see how it looks. And I'm gonna add just a little bit of chiffonata basil. Oh, light and fluffy. Look at that bite. Marron. Delicious. Pomodoro crudo for gnocchi.